Welcome to World Travel Made Easy with Itinerary Boss, the podcast for busy professionals who want to plan unforgettable trips without the stress. If you're craving adventure, relaxation, or cultural immersion, but feel overwhelmed where to start, this is the show for you. Each week, we dive into travel tips, expert strategies, and actionable advice to help you save time, money, and hassle while helping you design your dream trip. From group getaways to romantic escapes to adventure packed journeys and budget friendly tips, we cover it all. I'm Ross, your host and travel enthusiast, with over a decade of experience balancing a demanding career while also planning trips to over 25 cities in Europe, all over the US, Central America, the Caribbean, and beyond. I've mastered the art of stress free planning, and I'm here to help you do the same. If you love what you hear, don't forget to follow the show, leave us a review, as well as share it with a fellow traveler. I want to make your next adventure the easiest and most memorable yet. Now, on with the show. So, today we're diving into 46 countries and counting with one of my good friends, Ruba. And she's an avid
Hello.
traveler who I've gotten to spend some time with overseas in Budapest, Prague, Croatia, went to Ultra Europe, and many other good times in New York City, DC, and California. What's going on, Ruba?
What's going on? I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be on, and I feel like you should be the one who's interviewing me. 46 countries and counting. I mean, you got me beat by four and a half times, and I know you got a lot of good information to share. So really excited for this episode.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I will say some of the best though have been the trips with you and the boys. Like those were peak travel experience for me, especially because I got to just like lay back and let somebody else do the planning.
Yeah,
Um,
if COVID didn't jump in 2020, we would have been back in Portugal and in Greece running it back. But luckily, I was able to go this past September, and then going to Greece this September. So, which
we need to put Egypt and Montenegro back on that itinerary,
we will, we
on
will.
the itinerary boss.
I got to get through this wedding and all the fun that all the fun that comes with that, and then the honeymoon, and then we'll sell Audrey on that.
Oh, for sure. She's invited 100%.
Awesome. Well, I know you've been up to some travel recently, so would love to hear, where you've been going, what you've been up to.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, where have I been? I just got back from Mexico City last week, which was strangely enough my first time there. I want to say I've been to Mexico like a dozen plus times and never made my way off the coast. So
Balloon
that was a super
2020.
cool experience. We packed a lot into like 4 days, which is always a little bit hectic, but highly recommend. I mean, it's nearby. It's relatively cheap, all things considered. The culture is awesome. It is just a hustle and bustle city. Not what I expected. I felt like New York had gotten picked up and plopped down into Mexico. Not a ton of English speaking, which was an unexpected challenge. But I mean, obviously, we have our phones and we're able to figure it out. But nightlife was great. Food was great. We did a boat. We did a hot air ballooning for sunrise, which was a terribly difficult wake up call, but ended up being well worth it. We had lunch, I would say breakfast at like 8:30 a.m. in like a natural grotto. And we partied and it was a really good time. It was just a very diverse vacation. We got to do a little bit of everything and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Have
I've
you,
heard.
have you made your way?
No, I haven't. I've heard great things. Actually, a good friend just went down there for a remote work trip, and I know that's like it's a remote work destination and hub. And after we went down this February for 10 days and did like a week remote work in Costa Rica, we of course were like, okay, we got to do one of these every year. And we started to think about what's easy, what's, direct flight from Charlotte. And I've heard Mexico City's awesome, and I've never been, right? We went to Tulum a couple years ago, which was fun. I've, stopped over in Cancun, but I've and been to Cabo, but never been to Mexico City. So that's awesome to hear.
It's definitely worth it. I will say this is one of those things where you've learned your lesson from having been to Mexico and elsewhere before, where I like went stoked and prepped with my meds and like I was like, oh, I don't want ice in my water or in my cocktail. Like, just none of that. I'm going to play it totally safe. And even with that, I want to say like half of we were there for a bachelorette. And so there were 11 of us. And I want to say like there's a solid 50% was like very ill for 4 days following the trip. But yeah, I mean, you really got to be careful. Like it's hit or miss, but you have to just make sure all your water caps are screwed all the way on. You're not getting ice in anything and not taking like too many adventurous risks with your food orders and things like that. But
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And
what do
then
you learn?
I, s- I saw before you went there, then you went to Stagecoach, which I first off the fully lined like back in prom where everyone lined up. Those pictures had me dying laughing
I
where you
was
had your,
cracking up.
but you
Yeah,
went
why we
to,
chose to stay in a house with 36 people. And so we took that picture and I was like, there are 16 girls here. Such a massive group of humans to travel with. But it was really fun. I mean, obviously, it's nearly impossible to stay in like a festival environment with 36 humans, but we had like A4 is our meeting spot. And so when it was just time to meet for something, we would just make our way back to A4 and find each other. And it was my first stagecoach. And I'm saying I'm country curious because I'm not against country. It's not what I put on when I get in the car and put on Spotify. But this, yeah, I mean, I'm a borderline fan, I'll say.
how do you like that compared? Because I know you've been to Coachella. How do you like that compared to Coachella? Any
Am I,
differences? What's
can't
that?
I just like, oh, this is like full transparency.
Yeah, absolutely.
I despise Coachella more than anything. Like my least three favorite festivals are Coachella, Coachella, and Coachella by like far and away.
Why is that?
I don't know. I've heard from people that used to go like years back when the hype kind of started to build around it that it was a totally different festival. And I think now it's just wildly over commercialized. Like I did not have an experience of somebody who felt like the organizers cared about the user experience once they got into the festival. It's like they sold you the ticket and they were like, good luck. And you get in there, you're walking like 9 to 10 miles a day. It's a mile and a half walk to get in and off the festival grounds. There are no Ubers. If you've not planned your own private transportation or are walking distance from the venue, you're screwed. You're not getting out for hours. Like we walked one of the nights, like 12,000 steps just after leaving the venue before finally getting an Uber. Um, you have the headliners who everybody's trying to see. They don't distribute it in a way that the crowds are kind of dispersed. And so you've got like 100,000 plus people trying to go see one artist and you're sardine packed. You can barely hear. You can't really see the stage. Like it was just not, it wasn't for the people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah. No, I
yeah.
mean, I know I've been to a lot of festivals and concerts. I feel like every single one besides Coachella, and I kind of had heard the same thing, but I know you've been to everything under the sun. So I mean, that take is great because for people who are potentially wanting to go there, it just gives them the ability to learn and potentially either plan for it or say, you know what, I'm going to go to a different festival because that just sounds like a headache and a lot of money and maybe not what I want to do.
Yeah, it's expensive. My tips, I honestly, if you're gonna go, someone was like, "Oh, you don't go unless you get an artist pass," and I was like, "Well, why would I want to go to a festival that's only fun if you get an artist pass? Like that
Yeah,
defeats the purpose of going." So if you're gonna go and you're gonna go GA, get the private transportation and get a house that is close enough to the venue that you're not stuck in the Coachella traffic getting to and from. Because if you're further than 2 miles out from the venue, you're looking at like 30 plus minutes just to get there, and then you're walking another mile and a half in. So
that's that's helpful.
yeah, prepare for lines.
I can only imagine. But, I know you've been to 46 countries and obviously want to get some of the insights there. So, always one of my favorite questions is just understanding what inspired you to start traveling and, how has that then morphed over time and how have you continued to stay motivated to travel?
I think that's a good question. I feel like, you know, catching the travel bug is actually a very real thing for a ton of people. And it doesn't matter how late or early it happens in your life, that like when you have that itch, it's just something that you feel compelled to do. And so for me, very quickly it became the primary spend of my money. My expendable income almost exclusively goes towards travel. And I think that started well, my family is Egyptian. And so, I was traveling there from when I was a toddler. I think my first trip there, I was 1 year old or something like that. My first time going there solo, my dad sent me by myself to go visit my family, my grandma, aunts, uncles, cousins, the whole nine, alone on a Lufthansa flight that stopped in Frankfurt. I was 12. And I didn't have a cell phone at the time because it just wasn't really a thing. And so, I get to Frankfurt. For whatever reason, the first flight was delayed. I missed the second leg that got me to Cairo. And so I ended up having to spend the night in Frankfurt by myself. And I remember, he's going to kill me. I hope he doesn't watch this, but I remember like talking to my dad from, the help desk at the airport. And he was like, okay, like I'm going to get, a service to take you to the airport. There's a room booked in your name. He's like, you go to the room, you stay in the room until X hour tomorrow, and then you go and they'll get you and they'll take you on the flight. So I check into the room and I'm like, I've never been alone like anywhere by myself before overnight. And I'm in Frankfurt now. Like, what's it going to hurt? So I took the train out of Frankfurt to city center, and I just I walked around, I grabbed dinner by myself, made it. I couldn't figure out the train back to the airport, but I remember the name of the airport. So I took one of those like Euro taxis back to the airport and like went back to bed, checked in with my dad, and then caught the flight the next day out to Egypt. And I don't think to this day that he knows that I was out in city center Frankfurt by myself at 12 years old. But yeah, that's what started it out. And I obviously showed a passion for it really early on. And I was blessed to have, a family that supported that. So I think when I was 16, are you familiar with People to People?
Uh-uh.
Another awesome program. If, you've got, I think it's kids aged 14 to 18, or maybe even younger, 12 to 18. They've got all different regions of the world. My trip was all through Europe. So I saw like 9 different countries in Europe. We did a lot of experiential stuff. Like we stayed on a farm, and it was very just like culturally educational. It's more than just, we weren't partying at that age, right? Like we were 16 years old. I mean, we partied a little bit, but only, only what was legal. Um, and after that, after People to People, I was like, that's it. I spent every summer from there on out in a foreign country doing an internship. So it was adding, to my education and my resume at the same time. But frankly, I was looking for an excuse to get out of the country and go see somewhere new. And that's kind of where it all started. So yeah, I was lucky enough to start really early, but now that it's not lessened, I'll say that. So it's getting worse and I can't stop. So now, just trying to figure out how I can spend months at a time over there and keep that work-life balance.
I love it. That 12 years old in Frankfurt, Germany. That sounds like a Home Alone episode, and you were Kevin just trying to navigate where people are walking around with tall steins of beer, and you're like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so directionally challenged now that I still use to and from, and like I go in the same 3 places maybe, and I've lived here. I live in Santa Monica, as you know. I've lived here in the same apartment for almost 3 years now, and I still use my maps to get anywhere that I'm going, no matter the distance. If it's 4 blocks from me, if it's 4 miles from me, if it's 40 miles from me, I need my GPS. So I don't know still to this day how I managed at age 12 to navigate the train system and then find my way back. In my head, I was like, what's the worst that could happen? And now I'm like, a lot could have happened. It
Seriously,
had gone pretty poorly.
that's awesome. Well, no, and the people to people thing is great. I mean, for people who are, parents who might listen to this, that's something that I wasn't aware of. And right, everyone's familiar with study abroad in college, but for example, my mom is a middle school guidance counselor. In the past last year, she got to go to Barcelona and London, and it's a I don't remember exactly what it's called, but she's a chaperone and she's gotten to go over there, enjoy a few, I think it's 10 days. And then next year, since she did it last year, she's grandfathered into the program, and her and my dad are going to Australia for like two
Oh,
weeks.
that's
They
awesome.
come to the wedding, they literally fly out the Monday after, and then we head to Bali. So we're like, all right, we'll be flying right by you guys, waving, and
Oh, wow.
maybe
That's
link up.
awesome. That international family. I love that though. I think that's there's so many loopholes like that. I wouldn't even call them loopholes, but like experiences where
Yeah.
you can get, not just people to people, but like chaperoning, things like that, or volunteer. I just learned about this thing called woofing. Have you heard of that?
No.
I didn't know what if you asked me to guess, I never mind. But I would have essentially it's where you volunteer, you go and you stay on, and I don't even know if this is an international thing or if this is just North America or America, but you go and you stay on these like beautiful farms. Like they have a bunch up near Yosemite, and they provide you with lodging and with food. Your cost of living there is free, but you work from, I'm sure it varies from place to place, but my friend now who is doing it up near Yosemite is working. She works from like 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. or maybe it's 9 to 4, something like that, every day except for like Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And she gets to live on this beautiful farm. And there's a bunch of other people there kind of doing the same program, I would call it. And the minimum stay is 2 months. But once you agree to do it, you get to go and live in all these awesome places, and it's free. And you're not paying rent anywhere. You don't have your car. Like it's just essentially you're going to experience somewhere new. And she's learning how to farm and irrigate, and she's feeding baby goats every morning. Like it's super cool.
That is. I don't know if I could do all that, but I feel like
Yes, it's not for everybody.
but but I mean that's cool. Maybe back in the day, but I don't know about now.
I know you have an elevated taste for travel now.
I don't know about all that. Well,
But hey, we're talking with private boats and fresh seafood, and we're staying in, the top floor buildings, Airbnbs with the beautiful views over the city. I wasn't complaining. I
yeah,
mean,
that's
you
true.
definitely
Good
booked
news.
an epic trip.
Yeah, that is true. But the good news is we planned it so far in advance where it was so cheap that it
That's
made
fair.
it made it easy to budget for. I know you've been to a lot of places. Curious, like when you're looking at it, and what I thought was really cool, and when I connect with other people who travel a lot, they always provide things that I'm not even thinking about, right? And you shared your notebook that you had like color coded. Here's where I want to go next. Here's top priority. Here's bottom priority. And I was like, screenshot. All right, this is where we need to go. And just curious, like, how do you pick your next destination?
Um, Such a good question. Like if it were up to me and back in the days where I didn't have the commitments that I do now, were like a ton, and I'm sure you can relate, where now we're at that age where so much of our travel is dedicated to events, like if it's whether it's a bachelor or bachelorette party, it's a destination wedding, it's a family member type of event or something like that. So like now it kind of dictates, for instance, like I have a wedding this coming June that's going to be in Garda, Italy. So my travel after that wedding is going to be, and I know you actually did the itineraries for that wedding too, right?
Which itinerary are you using? I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm doing my own. I'm doing my own.
I
I
respect it.
I saw the ones you booked. But I've been to Italy before, and so I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different this time. And so, um, weirdly enough, I have a bachelorette right the weekend after the wedding. I have a bachelorette in Saint Tropez. And so I'm spending the weekend between doing Florence for a couple of days. And we really wanted to see, I love the Amalfi Coast. And I think I've only gotten to spend a couple of days in Capri, and was like, I want to do Positano and Sorrento and Amalfi, and just go do it when we have time on our hands. And rather than move about, we decided to actually rent a catamaran with 4 cabins in it, with a skipper and a host who will like cook our meals for us for when we do eat. And it'll just bop us around the different ports. And so we're able to sleep while we're heading from place to place rather than waste the time in transit during the day. And believe it or not, it is more cost effective than staying in the hotels there during high season, because those hotels in the summertime in Amalfi,
Yeah.
I mean, the like the ones that were like nicer, that
Yeah.
were borderline affordable, I was looking like 350 a night. And we were able to do this entire trip, all of the nights, host and skipper included, for like 750 a person. So we actually ended up saving money on hotels.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, and those are the type of things that I always like to learn, but also for people who listen, like those are just insights that you might not know. You look and you see, oh, Amalfi Coast. And even when I was helping plan the itineraries after the wedding, it was, finding those high, medium, low budgets. But I mean, yeah, during high season, it's it's more pricey. But yeah, elevated experiences, going to a bachelorette party in Saint Tropez. I see you. Post
You
Malone's pulling
know,
up.
it's I love her, so I'm going, and it just so happened that I was already going to be out in Europe. But I think to answer your actual question, when it comes to when it's up to me deciding where I want to go next, I try to see new places, and I really just listen to what people have to say, because there's certain places I've been where I would never have chosen to go had it not been for someone in my ear or having just gotten back or who lived there or something being like, listen, trust me, you gotta go. Like I've been hearing a ton randomly from people recently. They're like, you got to go to Romania. Not anywhere I would have ever thought to visit before, but I've heard it 3 or 4 times now where it's on my radar. And my next trip that I do is probably going to be to Romania. And just taking my friends' recommendations, I'll probably bother you a little bit. Um, and yeah, try to go from there. I just don't, I think once you've done, 46 countries, you've kind of checked most of the main ones off the list where it's just like, I want to see London and Paris and you've done those. And so you start to get into the weeds with what kind of culture do you really enjoy?
Mhm.
Um, what kind of time are you trying to spend getting there? What region of the world do you like? You know, how much time do you have and how much money do you have to do it?
Yeah.
And you find a ton of these places that are not the major tourist destinations are actually really affordable, and they've got really, really friendly people and really beautiful, beautiful places to stay. So it's just finding those hidden gems, I think, is where the point I'm at now is trying to see the things that are still unseen for me.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like when we were in our 20s and younger, it was okay, what's the most poppin' spot and what is like what's affordable, but also how can we go to 4 cities in 15, 16 days and get there on either a direct flight out of Dulles or Charlotte once I move down here? And then how do we get a direct flight there and kind of hitting those? And I feel like we picked the places that catered to that, but also now, like for example, when we went to Portugal, like the Azores Islands, that was amazing because it was so chill. It was dirt cheap and it was some of the most beautiful places you ever seen. But yeah, I've heard great things about Romania, Bosnia. I feel like those like Croatia a few years ago when we went, and then even prior to that, like before people really knew about it, that's kind of what that was. And the beaches were so awesome. But yeah, I agree. I feel like as you get older, you're like, all right, I don't want to be shoulder to shoulder. I'm just trying to go somewhere and enjoy my time off while also having like the nice scenery around me.
Yes, it's kind of refreshing when somewhere is like relatively untouched by tourism, or even if it's just kind of beginning to funnel in. I know when you and I went to Croatia, we had a lot of conversations with, some of our taxi drivers, our waiters, waitresses that were telling us that, essentially they don't even live in Split or Dubrovnik when it's the off season. They go back to kind of their hometowns because the tourism stops. And that's kind of like the lifeline of their income during the high season there is they come and there's the influx of us.
Yeah.
And I'm finding out if you actually like find that trickle, it starts to go, across the sea over into Montenegro, which is why, I've been spending a lot of time there because you're starting to notice that it's catering more and more to tourists, but it's not over the top packed. It's not over the top expensive. You're getting, you know, right on the water, very nice, fresh caught day of seafood. Some of the times the restaurants will quite literally go out and catch the fish after you've ordered it and then make it for you.
Ah, I remember.
And yeah, and it's relatively inexpensive right now. And so
Yeah.
you just kind of follow that path of tourism before it gets to be too much and you actually end up having a really, really good time.
Yeah. No, I miss the fresh seafood and I always still to this day memories just make fun of Austin for grabbing Caesar salad and French fries when you had freshly caught seafood walking up from the sea.
I'm still never going to stop making fun of you for the time you fell off the boat and we didn't notice for like 5, 10 minutes. I'm going to tell the story. So we were on, what kind of boat was it? I don't want to butcher it. Was it like a speedboat? Like what?
No, I think it was like a 12 person, like it was like a mini yacht, I think.
It was like a mini yacht. Okay, I mean we were six of us on it, right? Six of us and then
Yeah.
the captain. And we were going pretty fast and like we've been on the boat for a while. Um and then however many minutes passed, and Nick was just like, where's Ross? where's Ross? And I had this like, just like my gut like fell into the bottom of my stomach. And I was like, I saw something fly past my face a little bit ago. And I just thought it was someone's hat. And so we realized that we'd lost like your whole body. Just blown past our heads into the water. We came back for you, like we got you.
Oh
All was
yeah.
well. But
No, I was standing on the back, walking around that little back table, and then we just hit a massive wave. And I remember just bouncing up and just flying in the air. And luckily, there were, there was not really other boats out there, but yeah, that'll wake you up for sure.
for
That was a
sure.
fun day. If anyone needs to go, if you're ever in Croatia and need a boat, go to Bawa. It's you got it only can get there by boat and it's on Succession. So it's that was one of the best meals we ever had. And I think we each spent like $75 after having like that seafood platter and
Oh
putting
yeah.
a bottle of tequila and champagne. Like we had a good day after
Is
the
is that how you found it? You found it from when it was on Succession?
no, I found it pre-Succession.
Oh, okay. So we
Yeah.
got the curse.
Yeah,
I
I was
love
actually
that.
doing the research. Like we said, got it before it blew up.
Nice. Yeah. That was for sure one for the books. That was probably my favorite day of the whole trip.
Yeah, that was a good time. I think so. Leading into the next question, as we're talking about, countries that surprise you, what would you say out of all of them has surprised you the most that you visited?
Um, I know I mentioned Myanmar. So I guess I'll go to a different region of the world now and I'll talk about Zambia and Zimbabwe. Because I didn't expect to be there at all. I was supposed to be in Ghana taking a safari with the rest of my group from semester at sea. And we went out to this place called Shoestring, if I remember correctly. And, we had a few drinks, whatever, bit of a late night. And my friend Kay and I woke up and we did not have our phones and we did not have our wallets, our cards, or anything. Like we had 100% been robbed. And the rest of our group, so with semester at sea, as you know, you get back on the boat or the cruise ship and you leave from this port and you go to the next port. And if you get left behind, they don't come back for you. Like you just don't get the credits and your whole semester abroad is essentially a wash. So we had to get to Zambia to get to the port and we are panicking. And luckily, just by the grace of everyone around us who was just so supportive and nice, helped us. Like she had, I can't remember, I don't know if her dad transferred her money, but somehow we ended up getting out what we thought was going to be 1,000 of their currency. And we ended up accidentally getting out $1,000. And we were kind of in the just like screw it mentality, like let's just go do some stuff while we have these 24 hours. So we ended up in the back of one of the vans that was transporting water in and out of the hotel. And they took us to a friend of theirs that I guess did helicopter tours over the Zambezi River, which is like right in between Zambia and Zimbabwe. And so we got to see Victoria Falls, which is one of the largest waterfalls in the world, from a helicopter. And then we're talking to this guy. We end up making conversation. I think at one point he invited us to like his house to have a meal with his family. We didn't have time, but he did end up connecting us with another person he knows who still works in that tourism industry. And we got to bungee jump Victoria Falls. Like I'm talking, we were so close to the falls when we got to the bottom that I could feel like the water touching my face. Just like incredibly unreal experience. And this is outside of all these just like incredibly unbelievable sights that we're seeing, like these natural wonders. It's the generosity of these people who are going out of their way and taking time out of their schedules to help these two random girls who just don't have a single thing on them or nothing to pay them with. And ended up making it, to catch up with the rest of our group. And then after that getting to do, I mean, they all were like, how the heck did you get here? Like, where have you been? What have you been doing? We couldn't reach you. It's like, we didn't have anything, but, we made it. We knew the restaurant you were going to be at and ended up doing a whole safari with them. So we got to see, the hippos and the lions and the giraffes, but we also got to do our own little side quest. And so just the combination of the happy accidents, um, and just like loving the people around me so much, and then also getting to experience the nature there. I think that made it one of my favorite destinations, certainly my favorite surprise destination.
That sounds awesome. I've never bungee jumped, and I don't know. We'll see. I don't know
You
if I'm.
skydived?
No, I haven't. We actually got my mom that for her 50th birthday, and we're not gonna share our age because we just had Mother's Day, but it was a few years back, and I think I was the one who got it for her, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it with you. And then we just never did. So I think I just have to just apply the pressure, and we just got to go do it at some point.
You totally like it. I feel like you like action adventure activity type things when you're on vacation.
Yeah, we did um we went down the Tarzan swing, we did zip lining, we did four wheeling. That's not as intense there, but I mean, I've
So
I've gone heli skiing, which that was a little exhilarating, but that was a good time.
that's, I feel like that's not, I mean, you're a very decent water skier from what I recall. I feel like that's a little bit terrifying. Like, would I be able to do that? Just,
Well, I'm
oh,
not
you mean actually heli skiing like in the snow, not on
in
the
the
water.
snow. No, I'm not
Okay. I was
jumping.
like,
I'm not on Red Bull commercials jumping out of the
I was like,
helicopter,
I don't know.
flying into Lake Norman while someone else is
I
driving the
was,
boat. And no, there's that.
I might have just made that up, but in my head, I was like, you would do that. That makes sense.
No, they take you up, and no, heli skiing's crazy. That was probably the most nervous I've ever been, and they put you in a helicopter, and they're just like, all right, we're going up, and they just take you into the back mountains. It is dead silent. It's you and four other people, and no one's touched the powder. So like you're like, okay, you do go through like an hour of avalanche training right before, and they're
Oh,
like, if
wow.
something comes down, go to the right or left. Here's this beeper. This is how you find someone. It's intense. And like since then, when we snowboard, I'm like very cautious of avalanches and have it in the back of my mind. Before that, I'm like, oh, let's just go back country. Let's do whatever. I'm down. Like if it snows 5 feet, let's. So now, but yeah, heli skiing, I highly suggest it, but also I don't know how many more times I would do it. Like it was definitely a kind of bucket lister. And after I was like, all right, good. We got in and out in the helicopter safe. And
Yeah. Did you feel like you were in danger the whole time?
no, I feel
Okay.
like no,
It was just like understanding the risk type thing.
yeah, I feel like at the beginning it was like, okay, we're going to the helicopter. Luckily, Omid flew Black Hawk helicopters overseas.
Wow.
And he was like, he was with me. So he was like, all right, make sure you do this, and this, and was like helpful. But yeah, it definitely was exhilarating.
I mean, that sounds like it. I don't know if I snowboard, and I'm definitely not at the point where I'm doing anything near that level of intensity, but it sounds, I mean, just like the isolation of being up there with that few people sounds amazing.
Yeah, no, we loved it. So any what I know you got a Italy wedding and then you got the bachelorette party. Any other exciting trips you have coming up over the next year?
Um, I mean, just like local, I'll be in Seattle this weekend, and then the following weekend I'm going to Lightning in a Bottle, which I will at some point convince you to come to with me.
Lightning
Fan
and
like just
sounds like a
such a fun festival.
banger.
It's so great. And to on the opposite scale of what I was saying about Coachella, you could tell the organizers really care about your experience there. Like bathroom's always clean, always toilet paper, not a ton of lines, easy to find your friends, not overcrowded. Just it's on a lake too, so you get to float all day. Lineup's always good. So yeah, you'll definitely be hearing from me about next year's Lightning in a Bottle. But
There we go.
other than
Well,
that, yeah, it's Italy the week, like literally 2 weeks after I get back from Lightning in a Bottle is Italy, south of France. I'm doing Burning Man this year.
nice.
And then hopefully, well, oh, and then I have a wedding. I have Val's wedding in Guatemala, which you know about. And then hopefully I'll finally get to do my South America trip. I mean, that's next on my list. I haven't, that was the extensive list that you were talking about, where ideally I was like, oh, I'll give myself 4 months. And now it's looking more like I'll have 4 weeks. So I'm going to have to obviously really trim it down, but definitely want to make my way to South America.
Nice. Now that sounds fun. You'll once you plan that out, or you'll have to let me know where you like. And for lightning in a bottle, yeah, since it's on a lake, I'll just fly in a helicopter and then jump out and go water
Yeah.
skiing. So
Perfect.
we'll
I'll be on the boat waiting.
there we go. And hopefully we're not falling off like in Croatia. But we'll,
Yeah,
we'll
on the
go ahead and
nicest time, I
wrap
promise.
we'll go ahead and
What's that?
wrap up the episode. But before we wrap up, Ruba, where can the listeners find you online?
Yeah, get at me on my Instagram. It's at Rubes RO0BZ.
I'm glad you spelled that out because when I looked at it,
The
I don't
zero is tricky.
yeah.
That gets a lot of people. But honestly, this was so much fun. I miss you. I always enjoy talking to you about this kind of stuff. And yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This was great.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you coming on. And if people want any good resources, feel free to check out everything in the Amazon shop. There's a couple Budapest, Prague, Croatia links in the show notes, as well as the Italy wedding itinerary that Ruba had mentioned, as well as some Italy tips and tricks for you. So appreciate you and look forward to recording another episode here next week.
Oh yeah. See you, Itinerary Boss.